1. We're checking out this absolutely rad 1976 Chevy K5 Blazer that just popped up on Craigslist for $22,000. Let me tell you, these K5s are becoming increasingly sought after, and this one's got some serious presence. First off, we're looking at a lifted beast with a 6-inch lift kit that's been installed relatively recently. Under the hood, you've got the classic 350 engine. But what really makes this thing special is that rare manual 4-speed transmission. That's a combo that'll make any true enthusiast's heart skip a beat. The current owner has done some solid maintenance work. We're talking new exhaust, fresh gas tank and lines, new brake lines, and a newer carburetor. Those 37-inch tires wrapped around 20-inch rims definitely give it that commanding presence. And the chrome headers, though one's been replaced, add a nice touch. What's really interesting is that the body was restored about 8 years ago by a previous owner, and from what the seller indicates, it's holding up well. With 104,000 miles on the clock and a clean title, that's actually not bad for a 47-year-old truck. The current owner is being pretty straightforward. They're selling because of a narrow driveway situation, which, let's be honest, can be a real issue with these big rigs. They're asking $22,000 firm, down from $24,000. And they're open to trades for pre-1972 muscle cars. 2. We're checking out this super interesting 1983 Chevy K5 Blazer that just popped up on Craigslist for $16,500. And let me tell you, this isn't your average K5. First off, what makes this Blazer really stand out is that 6.2L diesel engine. These diesel K5s are pretty rare finds, and with only 30,000 miles on the clock, if verified, that's incredibly low mileage for a 40-year-old vehicle. The seller has clearly put some work into this rig. We're looking at a bunch of new components: windshield, rear glass, brakes, transmission, and rubber flooring. They've also modernized it a bit with a 24-volt starting system and LED lighting, smart upgrades for a diesel vehicle. The black paint looks clean in the listing, and with a clean title, that's always a good sign. It's running an automatic transmission and 4WD, which makes this a practical classic you could actually use. Now let's talk value. At $16,500, considering the current market for K5 Blazers, and the fact this is a diesel with supposedly low miles and recent upgrades, it's actually priced pretty reasonably. These diesel variants are getting harder to find, especially in this condition. Just remember, if you're interested, definitely verify that mileage. 30,000 is exceptionally low for a vehicle of this age. Also, check the 24V conversion work, as you'll want to make sure that was done properly. 3. We're looking at something pretty wild. A 1974 Ford F100 that's definitely got some character, listed at $5,950. And folks, I've got to keep it real with you on this one. This yellow beast is running on propane. Yeah, you heard that right. It's a unique setup that's actually pretty clean burning. But here's where we need to get honest. This truck needs some love. The seller's being upfront about its quirks, and I appreciate that transparency. Let's talk about the issues straight up. The power steering is out, and trust me, these old F100s are arm wrestlers without it. There's a squeak during acceleration. The windshield washer's dead, and we've got some rust to deal with. Plus, that odometer has rolled over, so we're looking at more than 100K miles here. But here's the cool part. It's got that awesome Mad Max vibe going for it. It's a 4x4 with a V8, and despite its rough edges, it's got that undeniable old-school truck character that you just can't find in modern vehicles. At $5,950, you're looking at a project truck with personality. It's not perfect, but it's honest. If you're mechanically inclined and looking for something different, and I mean really different with that propane setup, this could be an interesting project. Just remember, you're buying a 49-year-old truck that needs some TLC. But hey, sometimes the best stories come from these kinds of rides, right? 4. We're checking out something really special. A 1953 GMC pickup that's just hit Craigslist for $25,000. And let me tell you, this isn't your average vintage truck. What we've got here is a beautifully maintained piece of American history, powered by that bulletproof 235 inline-6 engine paired with a 4-on-the-floor manual transmission. And folks, the seller has done their homework on this one. Let's break down the impressive list of upgrades. They've modernized the electrical system with a new PowerMaster alternator and 12-volt point system. The cooling system is basically all new with a fresh radiator, water pump, and a Spal puller fan. That's smart engineering right there. The attention to detail continues with a completely rebuilt carb, and they've cleverly relocated the new 17-gallon gas tank from behind the seat to under the bed, a huge safety upgrade. The frame has been sandblasted and repainted, showing some serious commitment to preservation. For daily usability, they've added some modern touches like a retro sound Bluetooth stereo system with JBL amp. Nice blend of vintage and modern there. The truck's sporting fresh paint and current tags. At $25,000 firm, we're talking about a significant investment. But considering the extensive work done and the current market for well-maintained vintage trucks, especially with documented improvements, the price isn't out of line. These early 50s GMCs are becoming increasingly collectible. 5. We're checking out this 1985 Chevy El Camino that's popped up for $5,500. And let me tell you, it's a pretty straightforward example of these unique car trucks. This El Camino is running the V6 engine, not the more desirable V8, but with 89,000 miles on the clock. That's actually pretty reasonable mileage for a vehicle pushing close to 40 years old. The sellers kept up with maintenance, having done a fresh tune-up and new brakes, which is always good to hear. Now let's talk about the modifications. It's sitting on 22-inch rims with new tires, which is definitely a modern twist on this classic. They've also added what they're calling a nice sound system, though details are pretty sparse on that. Being honest with you all, the description is pretty minimal here. While it's got a clean title and the basics seem to be maintained, you'll definitely want to check this one out in person. These El Caminos can be prone to rust, especially in the bed area, and the listing doesn't address the condition of the body or interior. At $5,500, you're looking at entry-level classic car territory. It's not the most desirable spec with the V6, but these El Caminos are getting harder to find, especially with clean titles. Just remember, any 38-year-old vehicle will need some attention, so budget accordingly. If you're looking for an affordable way to get into the classic car scene, or just want something unique that can still haul stuff, this could be worth checking out. 6. We're looking at something pretty special. A 1973 Dodge Ram D200 listed at $9,900, and let me tell you, this one's got some interesting features that make it stand out. First off, we're looking at a classic slant 6 engine paired with a 3-on-the-tree manual transmission. That's some genuine old-school cool right there. The odometer shows 16,700 kilometers, but as the seller honestly notes, it's likely rolled over. What's really impressive here is the amount of new parts this truck's received. We're talking fresh shocks all around, alternator, water pump, starter, battery, full exhaust system, and all fluids. They've even upgraded to some serious rubber, those LT 285/75 R16. Hercules TerraTrack MT 10-ply tires, with 85% tread left on black steel wheels with trim rings. The interior's gotten some love too. They've installed a 1990 tilting Dodge Ram bench seat, new black carpet kit, and fresh chrome door sills. All the weather stripping and window felts are new, and there's a 1990 OE rear sliding window. Now let's be transparent. It's not perfect. The air cleaner is missing, though the seller notes it doesn't affect drivability. And there are some side mirrors that still need to be installed. But the truck's been repainted in its original orange color, and importantly, the seller states there's no visible rust or wave damage. That's huge for a 50-year-old truck. At $9,900 OBO, considering the current market and all the fresh parts, plus that clean body, this could be a solid deal for someone looking for a classic Dodge with some modern updates. These D200S are getting harder to find, especially in this condition. 7. We're checking out something truly special. A 1972 Dodge truck that's currently listed for $27,000. And wow, this isn't your average classic pickup. Let's talk about what makes this truck stand out. It's rocking that iconic plum-crazy purple paint, which was one of Mopar's most legendary colors from the muscle car era. But the real star of the show is what's under the hood. We're talking about the mighty 440 engine. That's some serious muscle for a pickup truck. Being offered by British Sports Cars, which is interesting for an American truck, the seller emphasizes that this is an exceptionally well-built vehicle. With only 4,389 miles showing, likely since restoration, this truck appears to be in show-quality condition. The description specifically mentions that the paint, body, and fit and finish are all very nice, ready for both shows and regular driving. At $27,000, we're definitely in premium classic truck territory here. But consider what you're getting. A professionally built truck with one of Mopar's most potent engines, wrapped in one of their most iconic colors. The seller states it needs nothing and is ready to go, which suggests this isn't a project vehicle, but rather a turnkey classic. This is the kind of truck that's going to turn heads everywhere it goes, combining classic truck utility with muscle car attitude. That 440 engine isn't just for show. It'll give this truck some serious performance credentials. 8. We're looking at a pretty clean 1972 Chevy K10 that's listed for $20,000. And I've got to say, this one's worth talking about. This is a custom deluxe model K10, which was the higher trim level back in '72, and it's got some impressive history being only a two-owner vehicle. Under the hood, you've got the classic 350 V8 paired with an automatic transmission and 4x4 capability. That's a combo that's proven reliable for decades. Now let's be real here. The description is pretty brief, but there are some key points worth noting. With 105,000 original miles, that's actually reasonable for a 51-year-old truck. The seller mentions very little rust, which is significant for these early '70s Chevys, as they were notorious for rust issues, especially in the cab corners and fenders. At $20,000 OBO, we're in the territory of well-preserved classics, and the market for these early K10s has been strong. These trucks are becoming increasingly collectible, especially clean, original examples like this appears to be. However, I'd strongly recommend getting a closer look at this one in person. While the seller states it runs and drives great, you'll want to verify the condition of the body, frame, and mechanicals, as the description is pretty sparse on details. This could be a solid investment for someone looking for a classic 4x4 with good bones and a clean history. Just remember, any 50-year-old vehicle will need some attention, regardless of condition. 9. We're checking out a 1971 Chevy El Camino that's popped up for $15,000, and let's get real about what we're looking at here. This El Camino is running a 350 cubic inch V8 paired with a 3-speed automatic transmission, which is a solid powertrain combo for these classics. The seller mentions the engine's been upgraded, though they don't specify exactly what's been done. That's something you definitely want to ask about. There's some good stuff here. They've installed 4-wheel disc brakes, which is a significant safety upgrade over the original drums, and they've apparently replaced almost the entire suspension system. That's actually pretty important because these upgrades can make a huge difference in how these classics drive. Now let's be honest about a few things. The odometer shows 15,083, but it's rolled over, so we're looking at 115,083 miles or more. The seller also admits it needs minor work. And in classic car language, that could mean different things, so you'll want to get specific details about what work it needs. At $15,000, you're in the middle range for El Caminos of this era. The price could be fair depending on the engine upgrades and overall condition, but you'll want to inspect those minor issues before pulling the trigger. These 71 El Caminos are getting harder to find, and with the disc brake upgrade and suspension work, this could be a solid driver with some modern safety features. 10. We're looking at something pretty special, a 1966 Chevy El Camino that's just emerged from a 26-year storage container sleep, listed at $17,950. And folks, this one's got some interesting details to discuss. First off, let's talk about that powertrain because it's a sweet setup. We're looking at a 350 V8 5.7L, paired with a Muncie 4-speed manual transmission and a 12-bolt rear end. That's basically the holy trinity of Chevy muscle car components right there. Now, here's what makes this one intriguing. It's been sitting in storage since the late 90s, but the seller's done the right initial wake-up maintenance. They've installed a new battery, new tires, and properly cleaned and flushed the fuel system, which is exactly what you want to hear about a car coming out of long-term storage. The seller makes some bold claims worth noting. They're saying there's no rust, which is huge for a 57-year-old vehicle. The body's straight with no damage, and the interior and dash are nice. The odometer's broken at 50,593, but given the age, mileage is pretty much academic at this point. At $17,950, considering current market values for 66 El Caminos, especially ones with the desirable Muncie 12-bolt combo, this could be a solid deal if everything checks out. These mid-60s El Caminos are becoming increasingly collectible, and finding one that's been preserved in storage rather than left out in the elements is pretty rare. 11. We're checking out a 1966 Chevy truck listed for $7,000, and let me tell you, I appreciate how straight-up honest this seller is being. Let's dive into what we've got here. It's running a 350 crate motor, that's a plus, matched to a 3-speed manual with a floor shifter. Classic combo right there. The truck's got a clean Arizona title and shows 56,693 miles on the clock. Now here's where the seller keeps it real, and I really respect this transparency. The truck runs and drives, but the wiring isn't finished. The good news is it's got a painless wiring harness, that's quality stuff, with labeled wires, which makes completing the job much easier for whoever takes this project on. I love how the seller straight up calls out the scammers in their ad. No shipping, no window sticker nonsense, just good old-fashioned cash and carry. That's refreshing to see. At $7,000, considering today's market for these 66 Chevys, you're looking at a decent entry point for a project truck that's already got some good components. The Arizona location suggests it's probably pretty solid in terms of rust, though the seller doesn't specifically mention body condition. This could be a great opportunity for someone who's comfortable with electrical work and wants a classic truck project that's already got a solid foundation with that crate motor. 12. We're looking at something pretty unique. A 1976 Ford Ranchero listed at $19,500. And let me tell you, the description here is pretty minimal, so we'll need to read between the lines a bit. This Ranchero is showing just 3,418 miles, which is incredibly low, almost suspiciously low for a 47-year-old vehicle. It's likely either a restored vehicle with a reset odometer or it's rolled over, so you definitely want to verify the history here. The car truck is decked out in red with a black interior and features an automatic transmission with rear-wheel drive, a classic setup for these Rancheros. The seller's labeling it as like new condition, which is a bold claim for a vehicle of this age. Now here's where we need to be real. The listing is surprisingly sparse on details. There's no mention of the engine type, no information about any restoration work, and no details about maintenance history. For a $19,500 asking price, you'd want a lot more information about what you're getting into. These 76 Rancheros are interesting vehicles. They're from the larger, more luxurious generation that shared platforms with the Torino LTD2. They're not as common as their El Camino counterparts, which does make them more unique in the car truck world. At this price point, you'll definitely want to inspect it thoroughly and get more details about its history and condition. These Rancheros are climbing in value, but documentation is key. 13. We're looking at a 1966 Chevy K10, listed at $22,000, and, well, this might be the shortest description I've ever seen for a truck at this price point. What we know is pretty basic. It's a short bed step-side K10 with 4x4 capability and a V8 engine, paired with an automatic transmission. The odometer shows 50,213 miles, though on a 57-year-old truck, that number could have rolled over a few times. It's wearing red paint and comes with a clean title. Now, I've got to be straight with you all. The seller's giving us absolutely minimal information here. For a $22,000 asking price, you'd typically expect details about restoration work, mechanical condition, any upgrades or modifications, and the truck's history. These 66 K10S, especially short bed step-sides, are highly desirable collector's items. They're known for their classic looks and robust build quality, and when properly restored, they can command serious money in today's market. However, with such a sparse description, you'll definitely want to do a thorough in-person inspection. check for the usual rust spots these trucks are known for, especially in the cab corners, floor pans, and bed. You'll also want to verify which V8 engine it's running and the overall mechanical condition. At $22,000, you're in premium classic truck territory, so make sure you're getting what you're paying for. 14. We're checking out a 1985 Ford Bronco Eddie Bauer edition listed at $20,000, and let's talk about what makes these special. First off, this isn't just any Bronco. It's the Eddie Bauer edition, which was the premium trim level back in the day, known for better interior materials and unique color combinations. Under the hood, we've got the 5.0 LV8, that's the 302 for you Ford folks, paired with an automatic transmission and 4x4 capability. The sellers kept the description pretty brief, but there are some important points to note. They fitted it with brand new 35-inch BF Goodrich KO2 tires, and those aren't cheap. These are some of the best all-terrain tires you can get, so that's a serious recent investment. The AC is mentioned as working, which is actually pretty significant for a 38-year-old vehicle. The truck's listed in excellent condition with a clean title, and it's wearing red paint, though we don't know if it's original or a respray. At $20,000, we're definitely in the upper range for these 80s Broncos, but the Eddie Bauer editions have been climbing in value. Those new 35 inches KO2S alone are probably worth around $1,200, $1,500. Just remember, even an excellent condition 38-year-old vehicle will need regular maintenance and care. These old Broncos are known for their durability, but they're also known for typical Ford rust issues of the era, so you'll want to check those usual spots carefully. 15. We're looking at something pretty rare, a 1974 Chevy Love pickup, listed at $10,900. And these little trucks are getting harder to find every year. Now let me tell you, the seller's keeping this description incredibly minimal. What we know is that it's showing 32,000 miles, though on a 49-year-old truck, that could mean 132,000 or more. It's sporting blue paint, has a manual transmission, and comes with a clean title and current registration. The seller claims it's in excellent condition, but with such a sparse description, you'll definitely want to verify that in person. These Chevy Lovis, which were actually built by Isuzu, were simple, lightweight trucks that came with a 4-cylinder engine, perfect for light-duty work and great on gas, but they weren't exactly powerhouses. At $10,900 OBO, we're looking at collector car pricing for these little trucks. While that might seem steep to some, consider this. These LUVs are becoming increasingly rare, especially in good condition. They were often used as work trucks and weren't typically preserved. However, and I've got to be straight with you here, for this price point, you'd really want more information about the truck's history, any restoration work, and its mechanical condition. These trucks were prone to rust, so a thorough inspection would be crucial. 16. We're checking out a 1965 Chevy El Camino listed at $13,500, and let's break down what makes this classic car truck interesting. First off, we're looking at an original setup here. It's running the stock 283 V8 engine paired with the Powerglide automatic transmission, which is pretty cool for originality buffs. The seller mentions it's got power steering, a nice luxury for these classics, and dual exhaust. Quick note, the listing says FWD, but that's definitely a mistake as these were all rear-wheel drive. What's particularly interesting is that this is a 2-owner vehicle, which suggests it might have a solid history. The seller's using it as a daily driver and claims it runs great. That's actually pretty impressive for a 58-year-old vehicle. They've installed a new alternator, showing some recent maintenance. The odometer's broken, pretty common for these old classics. So the 1,000 miles shown isn't really relevant here. At $13,500 firm, we're in the middle range for 65 El Caminos. These aren't the most valuable year, that'd be the 59S, but they're becoming increasingly collectible. The price could be fair for a solid driver, especially with the original drivetrain intact. Just remember, any vehicle from 1965 will need regular attention, even if it's running well now. But having a classic you can actually drive daily, that's pretty special. 17. Let me tell you about this interesting 1970 Dodge D300 I found on Craigslist for $9,000. I've got to be straight with you. This is one of those classic workhorses with character, but it definitely comes with some quirks that need addressing. This one-ton truck has an interesting history as a government surplus vehicle from the Department of Interior, rebuilt in 2016 with some custom touches. Under the hood, you're looking at a rebuilt 318 cubic inch V8, paired with a rebuilt 3-speed automatic transmission. The odometer shows 57,112 miles, which the seller claims are actual. Now let's be real about the condition. The seller's been pretty upfront about the issues. The radiator's leaking, the power steering only works in one direction, the brake pedal sticks, causing the brake light to stay on, and the carburetor float has some sticking issues. The clear coat is peeling, and there are some small dents and rust spots on the original blue paint, giving it what the seller calls a salty sweetie look. On the positive side, it's got a solid 9.5-foot flatbed that's been sandblasted and powder-coated, new running boards, and a bunch of rebuilt components including the driveline, brakes, and suspension. The interior features original bucket seats that have been rebuilt, a new headliner, and a new stock factory radio. For $9,000, you're getting a piece of American truck history that needs some TLC, but could be a really cool project. Just be prepared to tackle those mechanical issues I mentioned. They're not deal breakers, but they'll need attention if you want to use this as a reliable work truck or classic cruiser. 18. Let's talk about this 1977 Chevy El Camino that's up for grabs at $8,500. I've got to point out something right away. The seller listed it as FWD, which is incorrect since El Caminos were always rear-wheel drive, so that's a red flag we need to address. This black beauty is sporting a brand new V8 engine with less than 1,000 miles on it, which is definitely a major plus. It comes with a hydraulically assisted truck bed topper, new battery, and the seller claims the tires are in great condition. The title's clean, and they're marketing it as being in excellent condition. But let's keep it real here. While the listing sounds promising, there are some things that make me raise an eyebrow. The FWD mistake in the listing makes me wonder what other details might not be accurate. Also, the description is pretty light on specifics about the actual condition of the body, interior, and transmission. What's cool about the 77 El Camino is that it's from the 4th generation, which offered better ride quality and handling than its predecessors. These vehicles are becoming increasingly collectible because they represent a unique chapter in American automotive history, that perfect blend of muscle car style with pickup truck utility. For $8,500 with a new engine, it could be a decent deal if everything else checks out. Just make sure to do a thorough inspection, verify the engine work, and maybe ask about that transmission and undercarriage condition before pulling the trigger. These El Caminos can be awesome projects, but you'll want to know exactly what you're getting into. 19. Let me tell you about this 1967 Ford F100 I found on Marketplace. This classic pickup is actually pretty interesting. It's got a Hypo 289 V8 under the hood, paired with a new process 4-speed manual transmission. A solid powertrain combo for these old Fords. The seller's done quite a bit of mechanical work. There's a Hayes clutch, rebuilt rear end, new axle bearings, and they've upgraded to Summit Racing disc brakes up front. The front suspension's been rebuilt too. At $10,000, you're looking at a driver-quality classic truck. It's got 125,000 miles showing, though the odometer has rolled over. The body appears straight, and it's wearing mostly original blue paint with what the seller calls nice patina, which basically means it's got that worn-in vintage look that's popular right now. What I really like is that it seems to be a well-maintained driver, not just a showpiece. The seller uses it daily and mentions it's not too bad on gas for an old V8. It's got practical upgrades like a new rear sliding window and fresh battery. Being completely honest here, this isn't a pristine show truck, but it wasn't meant to be. It's a working classic that's been mechanically updated while keeping its original character. For someone wanting a classic F100, they can actually drive and enjoy. This could be a solid choice at $10K, especially given the current market for vintage trucks. 20. Let me tell you about this 1983 Chevrolet G10 van that's caught my attention on Marketplace. This is honestly one of the cleanest original G10 shorty vans you'll find from this era. What makes this van special is its remarkable preservation. It's a Michigan van that somehow escaped the Rust Belt curse, thanks to rust proofing done in the 80s. The original 4.1L inline-6 engine and 3-speed manual transmission, with a floor shifter, are still in place, showing just 79,000 miles. The van's history is pretty straightforward. It spent over 2 decades as a furniture delivery vehicle. It received a high-quality repaint in the 90s in its original light blue metallic color, and the match between interior and exterior paint is spot on. The sellers being transparent about the roof having some minor paint flaking, which is typical for GM vehicles of this era. What's really impressive is the condition of the body and undercarriage. There are no rust issues or rot in the typical problem areas like door bottoms, and there are no modifications like roof cuts or aftermarket add-ons. The interior is basic but preserved, with plywood protecting the original surfaces, and the dash is in mint condition. For $15,000, you're getting a remarkably original van with some nice features like working wing windows, power steering, and functioning gauges, including 3 aftermarket tachs. It's not equipped with AC, but the heating system works well, and it's got some upgraded audio with infinity speakers.